I, um, I, I grew up in DHS, about 15 years growing up. Got in a lot of trouble right out of high school, went to prison, and got out and was real focused on being better than my parents and being there. And so I always worked really hard, held down a job pretty good. And through the last 12 years, I've been married a few times, and the marriages have failed miserably. And just through the divorces, and just pretty much lost everything I've worked for and had to start all over. That's happened a couple times. And what pretty much got me here at the ranch was about 3 years ago. Had a couple deaths in my family. Me and my wife lost a child, and my first wife passed away, and I didn't cope with it real well. I really didn't know how, didn't have a relationship with God, and so I didn't go to God for help. And instead I went to alcohol, and through alcohol I went through messing around with drugs and trying to sell drugs, and ended up becoming, I guess you could say, my best client. And just over the last 3 years, my life's been a roller coaster ride. It's been up and down, up and down. And I've struggled raising kids by myself, and it's really hard to be able to work. And so I just, pretty much up and down. And about 1.5 years ago, I caught a possession charge, got put on house arrest, and I took it as a joke. I didn't take it serious. I was coming in when I wanted to, leaving when I wanted to, and part of my house arrest was to go to classes, and I never did go. After about 3 months of just being defiant, they were pretty fed up with it and locked me up for 5 days. They actually had violated my house arrest, and I was supposed to go back to prison, but somehow they let me out right before Thanksgiving, and I got to spend 6 weeks at home. I was home for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, and then they sent me to the ranch. And I didn't like it. I hated it. I didn't want to be here. I guess for the first 5 months, I was scamming, trying to figure any way I could to get out of it. I mean, it's actually really funny. The first part of the program, we have the 12 principles, and it's a couple months class, like 2 or 3 months. And I think after I'd been there about a month, I seen some guys get a certificate of completion. So I had this big plan of I was going to finish that step and get my certificate and go to my house arrest officer and say, look, I've completed the rehab part, I'm ready to go home. Well, God intended on me staying, and I only made it about halfway through that, the 12 principles, and we never finished it, and we moved on and phased up. And so I was like, well, there went that plan. And so I just, any kind of way I could figure a way out, I tried, and God wasn't moving. I was here. Well, it was a couple of times, a couple of things actually that really stand out. One conversation with Mr. Warren, he said something to me that really hit me hard. And I was telling him one day that basically I've already gotten everything I came here for, and which I was lying to myself. And I told him I need to get home to my little kid, and he's growing up without me. And I said, I'm missing everything, at the beginning stages of his life. And he told me, he said, you can either miss that and go home, or you can miss the rest of his life. And I mean, that's not exactly how he said it, but I mean, that's, what I got out of it. And so that was, pretty much, it hit me pretty hard. And, it was a sacrifice that I knew I needed to make to be there the rest of his life. Well, it's different now. I mean, it's still a struggle, but it's not the same struggle. I mean, it's different than it was 1 year ago. I still have thoughts of using, but I don't have an urge. I mean, it's just like, it's kind of like sometimes you can just be going and all of a sudden something just hits you, you know, and I know it's, you know, that just, you know, it's, they call the fiery darts, the devil darts, it's just, it hits me, but I don't, you know, I've prayed this so many times I can't even recall, but I've asked God, I've like, Lord, so anytime I have a desire or a thought of using, I say, God, you know, flashback a bad time, you know, remind me of something bad that happened. And I mean, he's been faithful to that, you know, no matter what. Anytime I think of something, you know, or I have a thought, you know, I always have a bad memory that pops up. And, you know, so it kind of haunts me, but, you know, I've just asked him, I'm like, Lord, you know, just show me something bad, you know, and that, you know, that keeps me from even wanting to mess up again, you know. Well, that's a tough question, because I mean, there's so many things that, you know, you want to tell somebody, and I guess the biggest thing is to be patient. You know, I mean, this ain't on our time, and if we try to make it our time, we're going to fail miserably. And, you know, and it's not our will that we want done, you know, it's God's will. And we'll never, you know, really know what His will is for us, you know, I mean, as far as time-wise goes. And, I mean, I honestly, 9 months isn't long enough. And I can't sit here and say that I have it or I've got it, because I don't. And I don't think I will ever have it figured out until I get to heaven. But I know that, you know what I've learned at the ranch, that I know how to deal with it. I know how to cope now. And I know if I just keep running hard after Jesus, that, you know, I will get there one day.
My name is Bryant Camp, and I got to the ranch, like, literally because I drove to the ranch. What led me to being at the ranch was a lifetime of bad decisions, about 5 to 6 years worth of just me running from God and doing pretty much whatever I wanted to, and with no disregard to who it hurt or how it hurt them, myself included. The ranch means the world to me. What it's been like being here has been a story. I mean, there's been ups and downs. Living in the basement with Robbie for too long was definitely the first milestone. When I moved out of there, I've made a lot of good friends. Unfortunately, some of those have gone astray, but a few of them have made it, like Matt and John Mark. You know, I'm so thankful for the people that I've met, and meeting people and making friendships that actually mean something, that's based around the right stuff. We're making a short testimony video because we spent about 4 hours making a trilogy like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit earlier. And if you want to see those videos, it's kind of like the director's extended cut. You can go to the Anchor Church YouTube page.
Well, God started working in my life literally the day I was born. My mom was young when she had me, like 14, 15-year-old. She couldn't take care of me. So immediately God had blessed me with a Baptist minister as a dad. And I was adopted when I was 8 hours old. And immediately he put me right into a Christian home. So my dad and mom, they was awesome. They taught me a lot of good things in life as I was growing up as a kid, and stayed in church. And Daddy really taught me the Word, how to stay in the Bible, how to pray. And as I got older, old enough to move out, that's when I started learning a lot of bad things in this world. I started drinking, doing marijuana, and one thing led to another. I really loved getting out and partying and doing a lot of crazy things, and I guess then is when the decision making really started taking a turn in my life. As I got a little older, God had blessed me with a nice job. I traveled on the road a good bit. I worked on water towers, sandblasting and painting water towers. I ended up falling off a water tower, 175 foot, and it literally crushed me, and didn't think I was going to make it. And yet, God told me that He wasn't through with me yet. A few years later, I had a horrible traffic accident. Met head-on with a log truck. Once again, it crushed me, messed me up. My mom and dad was still there for me. They was always there for me. Mama steadily prayed over me. And God told me again, I'm not through with you yet. God had always provided a way for me to live life, but I just took advantage of it. I was self-centered and selfish. I continued to do drugs. I continued to drink. Things escalated and got worse. It would get so bad that my dad and mom would have to come get me and bring me back home and try to get me sober and clean and get me help. And that would work good for 3 or 4 months. Daddy would steadily put me in the Bible, carry me to church, take me under his wing, get me back to my health. And but even that wasn't good enough for me. I still decided to run back out there and do everything wrong. God had blessed me with a wife and 3 kids, and still I chose drugs and alcohol over my family, and it destroyed my first marriage. And my kids grew up in this atmosphere with their father, their daddy, doing drugs and drinking alcohol right in front of them. And I didn't care at all. I always put my needs before everybody else's needs. So as I got older, I encountered some horrible situations after going through the divorce, self-pity. I lost my mom and dad. They passed away. And of course, I blame God for that. And things just kept getting worse. Well, God still told me He wasn't done with me yet. In and out of jail, I couldn't tell you how many times I had went to jail. But God was always letting me know that He was there for me. I just wouldn't reach out and grab His hand. I always thought that I had this. I was in control. Then one day, I met a woman named Tammy, and me and Tammy grew up together and we dated together as we were teenagers. We got married, and she has 2 kids, Corey and Courtney. And as our marriage progressed, I still decided and still chose to do drugs before anything else in my life. I put my drugs before Tammy and my kids. My kids looked at me with a frown on their face, tears in their eyes. I was disgusting. And yet, that still wasn't enough for me to put it down. Then one day I got caught with crystal meth, and I got locked up. And I sat in there for a little while, still thinking, you know, that I got this. I got control of it. My wife, Tammy, she threw her hands up one day, and she says, "I'm tired of this lifestyle. I'm tired of living like this. It just makes me so sick to see us like this." And she was actually the first one to step up and make the choice that it's time for a change. So that's when she found the transformation home for the women. And I decided that I would support her and come to the Anchor and visit her and go to church. You know, and I still thought that if I come to church and if I pray and if I read the Bible, everything was going to be okay. God had provided so many things in my lifetime, but yet, you know, I never would listen to Him. And I had known Him my whole life. because my daddy had taught me better than this. But I never would listen to God. I always listened to me and what my head told me to do. So as I was trying to support my wife, you know, I still got locked up. And I was sitting in that jail, and there was a little lady from the Anchor Church, Miss Joyce. She come down to visit me, and she don't even know me. But yet she loved me so much to come down there and let me know how much she loved me and how much God loved me. And it didn't really set in until she finally said these words that, "You're sitting here trying to do all this on your own. But there's one thing, John Mark, God never wanted you to do this on your own." And I just broke down and I melted, because I knew my dad and my mom loved me. I knew my family, my brothers loved me. I knew my wife and my kids loved me. And that was one thing about Tammy. She never gave up on me, never. She supported me with everything. She had so much love for me, she would never give up on me. And yet she was there the day that I got out of jail. And they carried me immediately to the Anchor. And that's when I met Brother David Ball. And we sat down and talked. And I knew about the Transformation Ranch through Anchor Church, visiting Tammy and supporting her. And I knew right then that I had to surrender. I had to do something. It was time for me to change, because I was sick. I was broken. I had nowhere else to turn. My marriage was shambles. It was, you know, Tammy and the kids had so much love for me, but I had done so much destruction with me making decisions from my head. So that's when I decided it was time to go to the Transformation Ranch. So I've been at the Transformation Ranch for 10 months, and it has been an awesome journey going through this program, because I have learned so many things from this program and from the people in the church and our teachers. I finally decided at 48 years old to open my ears and my eyes and start listening to God. And God has done so much for me. He has steadily opened up one door after another since I come to the program. I felt like I was nobody. I felt like I could never be fixed. I was just broke and dirty. But God changed that. On March the 16th, when I got out of that jail, after Miss Joyce loving on me and coming to the church and then coming to the ranch, I've never felt love like this before. Here is a group of guys that are just like me, that are broken, that is seeking something, a better way of life, a better way of living. I could always go get sober and clean and try to live life accordingly and try to do right, but it never worked. And the problem was, I never had God in the equation. But this time, God is in control of my life. And life is so much more abundant now that I live for Him every day. I thank Him in the mornings, I thank Him at night. This program really works. It has saved my life. All you have to do is surrender. You have to submit yourself. You have to bring yourself to a point to start deciding from your heart, making choices from your heart. God gives you desires from your heart, not from your head. So now I make choices from the heart. I want to thank my wife, Tammy, for stepping up. I love you so much, Tammy. And if you hadn't made that decision that day to change, I don't think I would have ever done this. This has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, is go through this program. But, you know, if it was so easy, it wouldn't even be worth fighting for. So it was a fight, and it was a battle. I want to thank Brother David and his wife and his family for him and his vision and his love. I want to thank Mr. Warren. Mr. Warren has showed me how to see the beauty in things when I couldn't see it at all. When I look at something and it just disgusts me, he said, you got to find the beauty in it. So Mr. Warren, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me, and I love you so much. Thank you for sharing with me all them times when I felt like, you know, I was just not even worthy to be listened to. You showed me how to seek out the beauty in things. God has really brought you to a point, used you as a tool in my life and made a difference. I want to thank Miss Joyce. I want to thank Mr. Roy and Miss Beverly. I want to thank the guys from First Baptist in Corinth. They really showed me how to be a servant leader. If there was anybody in my life that really showed me how to be a servant, it was the guys from Corinth. They're so awesome, and I love y'all so much. Thank you for everything that you do for these guys here at the ranch. Thank you for loving us. And I want to really thank somebody that's special to me, is Robbie Gillespie. Robbie, you've been my punching bag for 10 months. I hated your guts for the longest. And I know that there's things that you don't really know what you're doing, but God has used you in so many ways of purging all that anger out of me. When I would come down and talk with you and I was just so bitter and so angry, you actually showed me how to love. You actually showed me how to get free of things. You really showed me how to get on my knees and pray every day. So Robbie, I thank God for bringing you into my life. All you guys, Anchor Church. I really have a church body here that loves me. It makes me feel loved. And from now on, God is my boss. I have God in the equation now. I'm able to walk free and clean and sober every day. My kids look at me with a smile on my face. My wife looks at me as a different husband. I wasn't a godly man. I wasn't a godly husband to her then when I married her, but I am now. And God has blessed me so much in my lifetime. I love you guys. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Transformation Ranch.